What's happening, guys? I'm Curtis, and you're watching Left Foot First. It's come time on the LoCost to start dropping in the motor and some of the other heavier components, but I don't really trust this build table. I've jumped up on it a couple times and it's wiggled around. It doesn't stay flat and level, so I think the metal studs that we used for it aren't that strong. So I picked up some 2x6s to fix that. Oh.
I forgot how heavy a full sheet of 3/4 inch MDF was. Whew.
So this is the first time hooking this thing up on the hoist, so I don't see any lift points. So we're gonna make it up as we go. I'm gonna run the chain from the air compressor mount at the bottom over the top and back to one of the transmission bolts, and hopefully they're strong enough. Motor doesn't weigh very much, so we should be okay. So we've run into a bit of an issue with putting the motor in. It goes high enough, just barely. I'm gonna clear by about an inch, and then I'm about an inch off the ceiling. But the issue is down here. The legs for this guy are too wide for them to both fit underneath the table. So I gotta put one outside of the table and one inside the table. And then when I put it in there and push it all the way to the front, the motor sits off to the side. So I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna fix this yet, but we will fix it. All right, we managed to get it most of the way in. I'm gonna have to finesse it a little bit to make it sink the rest of the way down. But I realize now I gotta cut a hole in the build table so my oil pan can sink into it. So I'm not gonna bore you guys with that. I'm gonna do that tonight and hopefully get this thing sat down on the table. And then I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow morning. All right, it's tomorrow morning. We got the holes cut in the build table, so now the oil pan sinks in. And then I realized that once I bolt the transmission on, I gotta cut one of the bars on our frame. So we're gonna throw the transmission on the engine, and we're gonna build some brackets on the engine so that it'll sit in there straight and square, so that we can build our motor mounts and so that we can take all the measurements for how we're gonna cut that bar and make sure that it gets cut in the right spot. So first order of business is gonna be brackets that bolt onto the motor that hold it up in the air. Second order of business, putting the transmission on. Third order, cutting our frame apart. Yeah, let's start with those ones. So there we have it, motor's in, ready to go. I think that this might be a two-piece job. I don't think the motor and transmission are gonna go in as one. Take it all back out.
I stay up late, I'm reading how to fix this pain when suddenly I feel a flame of what I ought to do instead of lamentating, stagnating, not moving, nowhere flowing, oxytocin, big game, big break, feels like I might have to own it. Stay the same and I won't change until I know I can let go and live free of the self-inflicted introspective diet of this false shame, false pain, pure guilt. I'm not saying I can't breathe, I'm in flames.
So we got the transmission in at least. And then we can see kind of, we've centered it up. I can see where I'm gonna have to cut this bottom bar out. We might have to cut this top bar out as well and do some sort of like a hump over top of it. Transmission still has to slide back about 4 inches. So I'm gonna take some measurements, mark out where I'm gonna have to cut that bottom bar. And then we'll cut some uprights and weld the uprights in before we cut that bar. It's a lot of work. It's a lot heavier when you don't got a crane to help you. Whew. I'm gonna cut the episode there. 2 reasons. One of which is my camera battery died again. I bought a second camera battery today, but it was just like the knockoff brand, and it lasts for about 3 minutes total. So, lesson learned, don't buy knockoffs. The other lesson I learned today is SR20 motors are way too big for these cars. I had a hell of a time getting in there, and it just looks ridiculous, but I love it. So, we got the motor sitting in there. It's just mocked up right now, obviously. So we'll have to figure out motor mounts probably next episode and get that thing kind of bolted in there where it'll stay, and then figure out the rear end. We might have to reevaluate our wheel choice, because if I run 18s like I wanted to, it looks like there's going to be no room in the rear end once it goes to full bump. The rear axle is going to be way too high. So we might have to go down to like 17s or 16s or something a little more reasonable. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. I'm out.